so he threw it into the furnace to keep the fire going. However, the whole place exploded. Flames shot in every direction. Zhang Ping thought he was done for and wondered if he had died. But then a strange skull appeared on his chest, absorbing part of the power, and all the flames seemed to be entering his body. Suddenly, he woke up with one eye burning. The entire place was filled with smoke and ashes, but he didn't seem to be dead. However, his heart was burning and racing. Realizing he was on fire, he used his analysis ability on himself. His growth potential had risen to 4 stars. The more stars he gained, the more he could evolve his abilities, and evolving the abilities he had already acquired would further increase his potential. What he found odd was that people usually had a limit to growth increases, so why was he awakening so many talents? This time, he had awakened Flame Devourer, which allowed him to absorb fire energy and release it at any moment. What he found strange was that he had consumed a level 3 gem that morning, but the power had only been released after this accident. Suddenly, the woman appeared, asking what happened. She noticed that the scarlet scales were gone and said that those caused an explosion when thrown into the furnace, but she admitted it was her fault for not telling him. He apologized to Sister Rose Kirong and said he would pay the price to repair everything. She told him that just being okay was good enough and asked how he hadn't died, since it was hard to put out the fire from such a scale. Moreover, she saw that he had created a material that required an extremely high temperature. She started casting the item into the mold, saying he had great potential. She remarked that the Academy still rated him with low performance, but he was good enough to enter one of the 3 major organizations. He said he knew the patrol squad and the investigation squad, but what was this third one? She explained that there was indeed a third organization in the city. Almost no one in Pearl City knew what they were called or what they did. She then asked if he needed equipment and told him to take the dagger if he didn't mind. Seeing its glow, he remarked that it looked quite expensive. The good quality dagger was called Beautiful Tears and dealt damage to any creature below level 19. She explained that it was worth at least 100,000, which would be around 3 years of salary for that fool. He asked how someone poor like him, who earned 3,000, could walk around with something like that. She told him to see it as a reward for improving so quickly. She mentioned that she was going on a mission and asked if he was sure he wouldn't return to the academy. He replied that she didn't need to worry because he had already filled out the graduation papers. She told him to take care of the old man and not let him open the shop. Zhang Ping realized that the foxes had no interest in this place because they rarely opened it. However, with all the things happening lately, it might have drawn some attention. Since it was night, perhaps it was a good time to take a look around the street. Out there, he saw a little girl on a swing looking all cute. But of course, she was a Dan fox with 4 stars of power. The interesting thing was that this was the first time he had seen a level 3 fox. Since both he and the fox were level 3, and he had the new dagger and abilities, he figured he could probably win. The patrol squad had been killed, but the investigation squad should still be fine. If he can deliver the body of a natural order fox to them, he could get some attention. But suddenly, he was frozen in place and someone asked if he was trying to attack a child. He was warned not to move or he would lose his life. The woman told him to drop his weapon, and he already knew that whoever she was far above his level. Both his Night Walker ability and the Ring of Assassination had been detected by her. The voice then said that if he didn't want to die, he should meet her at the training ground by the orphanage. With that, she vanished into the air. At least the fact that he was still alive meant she wasn't on the side of the foxes. He grew up in that orphanage, and as a child, he started calling it the training ground. But that's how she referred to the place, which meant she somehow knew him or knew something about him. Not only did this figure seem to be watching him, but she also stopped him just as he was about to make a move. If she had sent him there, she must have had a purpose. Suddenly, a paw stepped near him. A mutated beast approached, and he wondered why there was one in the forest. It was a level 5 armored poisoned rat. Considering the level difference, he thought about retreating, but then he remembered that with the dagger in hand, he could win. Especially considering that the orphanage children would be in danger if they came out and saw this. Thinking of how much Sister Rose Kang trusted him, he couldn't back down. Even though he didn't know how to fight perfectly yet, he had read plenty of stories about battles and he had full control over his body. Suddenly, the rat lunged at him and started rolling in his direction. He quickly thought of a way to defend himself and managed to block the attack. The problem was that the creature kept spinning and its armor was extremely tough. It ricocheted and crashed into a rock. From there, it opened its hand and began gathering green energy. Zhang Ping began controlling himself as if he were in a game, dodging everything left, right, left to evade every attack. The only weak point of the creature was its eyes, as its entire body was protected by armor. Seeing the flames in his hands, he knew how to handle this. He rushed toward the creature, dodging its attacks, and said he'd make a feint first. He struck, but the rat defended itself and rolled into a ball again. But then Zhang Ping prepared and told it not to get angry. He unleashed a barrage of flames at the monster's feet, taking advantage of the moment when its resistance was reduced and landed a solid hit on the creature. Sometime later, he leveled up and gained a few attributes. Clearly, combat was the most efficient way to level up. What he found strange was the appearance of a rat in the middle of the city. It was highly suspicious. While he was thinking about whether there were other creatures, something approached him from behind. In an instant, he seemed to fall into a swamp, and before he knew it, he hit the ground. He fell flat on his back like a fool in a cave. A voice reached out a hand and said he had 5 minutes. He recognized it as the same voice from before. A girl pointed an ice blade at him and told him to prove that he was human. He was confused, wondering how he could prove something like that. He had been born human, so maybe that was proof enough. But that he realized that if she was asking something like that, it was because she knew there were some beasts in disguise. However, she couldn't tell, which was why she wanted him to prove it. He then asked her to give him some hints about how he could prove it. He already suspected that the rack from earlier had been a test from her. She told him he had 4 minutes left, and he continued using his analysis ability. It had already been 20 times, and he kept failing. On the 999th attempt, it finally advanced to a higher level. With that, he tried again, and the analysis passed. Her name was Liu Cixin, a level 28 human from the Purging Squad. He had never heard of this group before and thought it might be the third one that Sister Rose mentioned. Angrily, she told him he only had 1 more minute to prove himself. He mentioned that if she called the orphanage the training ground, then she must have grown up there too. The problem was that he didn't remember anyone named Liu Cixin from the orphanage, so he asked if she was Liu Torin or Liu Yusho. Maybe she was Xingyu or Sissy. The boy received a small cut, telling him to be quiet. She said that none of this proved he was human. However, Zhang Ping figured she must be Liu Sissy because she reacted when he mentioned that name. She was 3 years older than him, and by the time he had joined the academy, she had already graduated. He needed to recall something that only the two of them knew. He remembered that she once taught him the earth-crushing fist and began mimicking the movements she had shown him back then. He said that it seemed she really was Sissy. However, she interrupted him, saying she would ask a second question. She pointed out that his ability was the contract gem, which was supposed to be useless. So what had he been doing during this time, and why did he seem stronger? He explained that 2 weeks ago he consumed the contract gem and now had control over his body, making him immune to any beast illusions. Based on what he had observed, there was a massive group of natural order foxes within Pearl City. He believed that their entire tribe had already infiltrated. She asked if he was telling the truth since a fox's basic talent was cognitive distortion. He started explaining about the city's influential figures, the weapon shop, and even the girl on the park swing. All of them were natural order foxes. She told him to wait there while she checked something and asked someone named Jin Bo if he thought the information was reliable. The man replied that they had never discovered the natural order foxes inside Pearl City, but some investigations pointed to something similar involving cognitive distortion. He would send 2 people to capture the nearest foxes, and they should be back soon. However, at that moment, an explosion occurred behind him. 2 men were lying on the ground, and he asked what had happened. One of them came running, saying that the crazy one following them was the owner of the cafeteria. The moment they tried to ask her to come with them, she started attacking everyone. The next thing they knew, she was face to face with the leader. But the man calmly prepared his fist and told her to die, hitting her square in the chest effortlessly. The girl disintegrated, and he remarked that it was arrogant of her to attack like that. As the body lost its aura, it turned into a fox. The man confirmed that the boy's information seemed legitimate. Finally, they began to understand who their enemies were. He told the team to be informed, and they would start hunting down these targets. Meanwhile, at the Pearl Academy, the lovely Lu Xiu was lying down. Except, of course, she was a terrible fox. She and her friend seemed to sense something. Without hesitation, Lu Xiu leaped from the top floor, thanks to her distortion ability, making it irrelevant. In truth, she sensed that a girl named Yu Ju had been killed outside the city, while another had been killed in the business district. Who was managing to hunt them down so perfectly and avoid her detection? Obviously, she wasn't going to let this slide. Back in the dark space, Zhang Ping asked if Sissy had finished her investigation. She replied that she had, but he was still quite strange, given that he had received this ability out of nowhere. Since they couldn't fully trust him yet, he would only act as an informant. She would keep a close eye on him, and if he found anything, he should get in touch. Zhang Ping agreed, saying he'd do anything to avenge himself against the foxes. She threw him an item explaining that this jade comes in pairs. He had the cold one, and if he applied heat to it, the hot jade she carried would warm up, serving as a kind of signal. Still, she advised him to keep getting stronger. No one could guarantee his safety 100%. Zhang Ping was excited, playing with the jade, saying he really wished he had joined the martial arts academy, but he didn't have the money for it. Sissy said she'd talked to the organization to secure a spot for him. The boy excitedly thanked Sister Sissy. Recently, the number of foxes in the city had been decreasing significantly, allowing the squad to kill them all. Luckily, he had gained his ability at just the right time, discovered the squad, and learned her identity. Thankfully, everything was going well, and the foxes were being eliminated. Plus, he had received $10,000 right away, which was quite generous. A girl approached him, asking if he was interested in learning martial arts at the Beast King Academy. The boy agreed, saying he'd like to check it out. This martial world was highly capitalistic, with each technique priced in dollars. The girl assured him that it would definitely be worth his money. The Beast King's martial techniques were highly valued in Pearl City, and she grabbed him, saying that if he didn't believe her, she could show him. She then prepared and told him that the first 3 techniques were the monkey technique, the crocodile technique, and the phoenix technique. Zhang Ping noticed that the movements were much more precise than what he had been using. It really was a good martial art, The only issue was that it was clear the girl wasn't fully prepared to teach it properly. Being a gentleman, Zhang Ping asked if she was okay. As they were talking, two side characters showed up itching for a fight, and one of them asked who had given her permission to hand out flyers there. Embarrassed, she apologized, saying she didn't know she wasn't allowed to. Then that annoying blonde guy, Andy, showed up, saying that the beast fist technique was ridiculous. As he approached, our protagonist already wanted to punch him because he teased him about the thunder technique. Of course, the guy didn't like that and said it was time for revenge from the blacksmith shop incident. But the girl stepped in front, saying no one was going to hurt Zhang Ping. The guys started yelling and tearing off their shirts. Zhang Ping activated his analysis ability. The two fools were level 4 and said they would finish them off. They were using a skill that reduced intelligence by 70% for a little bit of extra strength. Zhang Ping was confused. He wasn't even sure if that could be called a talent. He then turned his attention to the girl, whose name was Wan Jimin, and saw that she had a ton of potential for growth. She would definitely be strong in the future, but at level 3, she would only get beaten up. So he handed the flyers back to her, saying this was his problem and he would handle it. After all, he was eager to test the techniques he had just learned from her. One of the fools lunged at him, but Zhang Ping easily dodged and landed the first style strike to the back of the neck. The second guy came, but Zhang Ping elbowed him in the stomach, saying that was the second style. Then that useless blonde tried his lightning technique again, but Zhang Ping kicked him in the groin before he could complete it. Jimin was already impressed, wondering how Zhang Ping had learned the techniques just by seeing them once. She even asked if, in the future, he could teach her when she didn't understand something. Zhang Ping agreed, and she thanked him, saying that together they would get much stronger. Zhang Ping knew that with her 7-star growth potential, she really had promise. Maybe, in the future, he would be the one needing her help. When they arrived at the academy, they saw a bunch of people panicking because it seemed like the instructor was coming back. She even mentioned that Instructor Baide was a bit cruel, and those who didn't complete their missions were usually punished. Zhang Ping asked if she had been punished, and she admitted that she was probably punished the most since she hadn't managed to accomplish much in a month. Zhang Ping wondered why she seemed so proud of that. Then someone opened the door and everyone greeted the instructor. Jimin told Zhang Ping to be respectful and cautious. The first thing the instructor said was to run 50 laps. Zhang Ping noticed the man's name was Baide, a level 25 human. He could already tell that Baide was strong, especially since his level was on par with Cizi's. Baide then asked Zhang Ping if he was the one who helped with the issue at the other school. Zhang Ping responded that he was. Baide prepared a fist and told Zhang Ping to take a look. Zhang Ping tried to explain that he wasn't that strong, but he began dodging the attacks. Baide asked what was up with that beginner talk, as he had heard that Zhang Ping learned the Monkey King technique after just one demonstration. Baide came at him, and Zhang Ping realized he wouldn't be able to dodge. However, the instructor was kind and just gave him a soft tap. Baide admitted that at first he didn't believe it, but Zhang Ping really did have potential. It was just a shame that he had learned from someone so useless. The movements that person showed weren't even close to the real ones. Baide said he would personally teach Zhang Ping, and the boy thanked him. But now it was time to deal with the slackers from earlier. Baide ordered everyone form a line and fight him, followed by 500 push-ups and a 10 kilometers run. As someone touched Zhang Ping, it was Jimin, embarrassed. He asked what was wrong. She said the instructor had never taught her privately, so she would love it if he could pass on his knowledge to her later.